Hello everyone, my name is Robbie Runk, and I'm going to talk to you today about the effects of extrinsic rewards on children and young adults. So let's say that you wanted to get someone to do something for you, and you decided to ask them what would motivate them to do the task. The response would likely be to tell you that giving them a reward would help motivate them the most. Gold stars, treats, and money have been employed for generations in the attempt to motivate and manipulate the behavior of other people. Parents may find themselves dishing out rewards in response to the demonstration of a desired behavior from their child. Household chores can become trade negotiations as the proper compensation for helping, be it video game time or an allowance, is negotiated. Public school systems are attempting to increase academic performance and interest in learning by rewarding children for their efforts. A double shot of prizes is created when a student is given a A+ on a paper or a cool sticker on a star chart in response to a set of behaviors, and the child is then rewarded again at home simply for having received the initial reward in the first place. This trend does not end with childhood or adolescence, as it commonly extends right into adulthood. Employers are notorious for dangling the carrot in front of employees. Perform to a certain standard, meet that sales goal, produce that quota, and you shall receive a reward for doing so. These deals, bribes, trade-offs, and incentives seem to be the natural means of increasing both the desire to complete and the performance of various behaviors. But we are left with the obvious question: does it work? While some results may indicate that incentives do work, at least in the short term, these rewards may not ultimately be producing the desired results, evidenced by the fact that there are meta-studies of the meta-studies. The subject itself is not a new area of inquiry. Investigations into the area of rewards and behavior began decades ago, and new studies continue to be published, most of which produce similar results. Research suggests that extrinsic rewards can undermine valued behaviors, task-related performance, and intrinsic motivation. To start off, we'll take a look at this subject from the perspective of a parent. Some of the most basic aspects of child rearing are the processes of socialization and the development of autonomy. Through the constant everyday interactions with peers and adults, children and young adults learn the basic tenets of interacting with other people and developing their behavior patterns. As a part of this process, the goal for many parents and educators is centered on the idea of fostering desirable traits and actions with those they care for. In doing this, it may seem natural to provide rewards in response to demonstration of self-control or altruism. However, evidence-based research into this area has shown that the addition of material rewards can actually lower the likelihood of the action being repeated and can challenge feelings of autonomy. A recent study reported that children may be naturally motivated to act in a pro-social, helping manner. When the children within the study were offered prizes for demonstrating these helping behaviors, follow-up measurements showed that they were less likely to repeat the pro-social traits when compared to the children that received no reward at all. The addition of material rewards appeared to have lowered the intrinsic motivation of the children to help others. The effects of rewards on this innate sense of altruism have been measured in children as young as 20 months old. One study of rewards on the intrinsic motivation of children to help others reinforced the notion of external rewards undermining prosocial behaviors. Unique to this particular study was the fact that the children being observed would exhibit helping behaviors even when it was to their own detriment. Rather than playing with an attractive toy, children often chose to help another child complete a simple task they were struggling with first. When given an external reward for their altruism, the rewarded children helped less in future retests when compared to the children that had been given no reward at all. It was noted, however, that the addition of verbal praise did not produce the same undermining effects as did material rewards. The researchers in this instance theorized that verbal praise did not hinder, and may have even bolstered, the pro-social demonstrations of children because it supported the intrinsic motivation of children, rather than providing them with an external reason to help. In addition to the valued behavior of altruism, researchers have investigated the effects of rewards on autonomy. A study conducted in 2004 sought to measure the ability of children to complete uninteresting tasks when offered various measures of support for doing so. In addition to measuring their performance on the task, the researchers were also logging the children's feelings towards the task themselves. This type of experiment has been considered quite relevant, as many tasks completed within school or at home might seem trivial or boring to the children at the time. Well, the researchers in this case found that the addition of rewards did not lead to an increase in performance of tasks, and even hindered them in some cases. More to the point, though, the rewarded groups seem to lack a sense of harmony between performance of a task and their feelings towards it. The children who demonstrated the highest level of integration of task importance were those whose autonomy was supported by explaining the importance of a task rather than bribing them to complete it. As a result of this, the researchers suggest that rewards may alienate a child's sense of self-regulation and interfere with autonomy support. This lack of congruence between autonomy and rewards has been evidenced even in late adolescents and young adults. One set of researchers ran a series of experiments designed to measure the demonstration of self-control of undergraduate students when their autonomy was challenged by the promise of a contingent reward. Participants in this study showed less self-control in future tests when the promise of a reward was in place. The researchers explained that their measures were able to determine that this lack of self-control was not caused by any mood alteration or a stress level incurred from the test. It was argued that the mandate to utilize self-control depleted this resource of self-control more rapidly than when free choice was in place. In addition to the attempted promotion of valued behaviors, rewards can be used as a means to try and increase task-related performance. This trend may start in childhood with bribes for a clean bedroom or an empty dinner plate. It does not end there, however. Good grades can equal time with car keys and eventually lead to an employer's attempt to get people to do their jobs at the highest level they are capable of. In his book Punished by Rewards, author Alfie Kohn details the effects of rewards on a number of different aspects of development, focusing on the detriment of rewards to performance and how it has been documented through scientific study. The idea of getting rewarded for doing a good job may seem like common sense. The research in this area, however, shows that rewards given for performance may not be producing the desired results. The continued trends of offering rewards for performance may be puzzling, considering the scientific literature on the subject extends back for several decades. In their study of the effects of monetary rewards on a simple visual discrimination task, researchers in a 1961 experiment discovered results which, at the time, seemed quite surprising. When asked to complete a simple matching task, the performance of 9-year-old boys in the study actually decreased with the addition of a monetary incentive. In contrast to the control group, who were simply notified if they had given the correct answer or not, the reward group was paid a small monetary reward for the correct answer. The researchers found that no matter how much they increased the reward, which when adjusted to a current day valuation, the max equaled about $8. But the children in the money reward group did not perform as well as those who had received a simple notification of completion. The study was one of the first within the area at the time, and several similar studies sprouted off of these results throughout the 1960s. A decade later, a group of researchers found similar results with high school students who were given a variety of tasks to test various factors ranging from performance to creativity. The results of this study did not stray from the mounting levels of evidence on the subject, as the participants in the reward group performed at lower levels across the board. Perhaps due in part to this particular study, the 1970s saw a branching out of research from simple task performance, which by that time had accumulated a significant amount of evidence, to measures of performance in other areas. Researchers Green and Lepper found that preschoolers asked to draw pictures were able to complete as many pictures as those who were not rewarded. The drawings of the reward group, however, were judged by independent reviewers to be of a lower quality than the control group. These effects on creativity were shown to not be limited to just young children either. When asking college students to use creativity to solve a number of problems, one study found that extrinsic incentives decreased the ability of the students to creatively solve a challenging math problem. Other factors, such as the subject's mathematical ability, level of concern in regards to performance, and subject matter interest, were all evaluated by the researchers in this experiment and not found to be significant factors in their performance. It was noted that it was the rewards that made the difference. Another study from this time period involved sixth graders tutoring first grade students. In this experiment, a researcher asked sixth grade students to teach a simple game to some younger schoolmates. Half of the older children in the study were promised movie tickets for a successful job, while the other half was not offered any reward. Those in the no reward group were marked as having a more positive emotional tone with their counterparts when compared to the reward group, who were noted as often getting frustrated with their charges. The reward-free condition also marked greater learning and fewer errors with the games as well. These trends continued through the 80s and 90s as researchers expanded upon the significant body of evidence surrounding the effects of rewards on task performance. Research documented how rewards hindered the scores of college students on the sections of intelligence tests that necessitated the use of creativity. A follow-up experiment was able to show that extrinsic incentives had similar results with young children. In this case, when the young children were asked to complete some games, which were also used as a part of intelligence tests, those that were promised rewards performed at a lower level than the control group. One remarkable finding of a 1992 study found that the presence of rewards used for motivational purposes was shown to have a lasting effect when subjects were retested later on. The study involved the completion of a deductive mystery game, similar to the board game Clue. The school-aged participants in the study were given motivational incentive in one of two conditions. They were presented with a fantasy storyline surrounding the game, or they were offered a toy reward for their completion of it. Not surprisingly, the children in the fantasy-led group demonstrated higher levels of performance through the utilization of more elaborate and efficient models of problem solving than their reward-led counterparts. What really stands out about this study, however, is what happened 1 week later when the same participants were brought back to complete a slightly more elaborate task. In the new test, no motivational incentives were given, and the group's results were measured individually. The researchers found that the students that were previously assigned to the reward-led group continued to show a lower level of performance on the new task 1 week later. The previously reward-driven group provided approximately 10 times as many incorrect propositions, considered themselves as not being as competent as others, and showed preference for simpler tasks. The scientific literature regarding the effects of rewards on valued behavior and task-related performance is quite extensive. One of the most influential theories on reasoning behind these effects lies within the motivation of the individual, or their intrinsic motivation, why they do what they do. Whether the motivation originated from inside the individual or as a result of an external factor is a very pertinent variable. There's a difference between completing a task simply for the sake of doing it and completing it as a means to get something else. Research in regards to intrinsic motivation, similar to that on valued behaviors and task performance, shows that rewards can have a profound effect. Within the study of intrinsic motivation and extrinsic rewards, there may be no name more influential than that of Dr. Edward Deci. For the last 45 years, Dr. Deci has published numerous academic investigations into this subject. In a 1971 article investigating the effects of externally controlled rewards on the internal motivation of individuals, Dr. Deci found that rewards, in this particular case were monetary rewards, were shown to decrease intrinsic motivation. On the contrary, verbal praise or signs of social approval did not have the same undermining effect as the monetary rewards. Since the publication of that article, Deci has gone on to author or co-author scores of similar investigations on the subject. As the body of research into rewards and performance is so extensive, much of the more recent work by Dr. Deci and his colleague, Dr. Richard Ryan, has been on a more aggregate view of the subject and has led to the formation of the self-determination theory. While the entire breadth of self-determination theory is beyond the scope of this presentation, it basically revolves around the extent to which an individual's behavior is intrinsically motivated and determined. So in 1999, Deci, Kostner, and Ryan conducted a meta-analysis which took into consideration 128 academic studies and 4 other meta-analyses in this area. Results of this research showed several trends. External rewards were shown to be negatively associated with continued intrinsic motivation in task contingent situations, with this effect being most pronounced in children. One differentiation made by the researchers was that verbal rewards, or the social approval, were shown to not provide the same undermining effect as did tangible rewards in some situations. Verbal praise bolstering the competence of a participant was shown to situationally enhance the intrinsic motivation of young adults, but was not replicated with children. As a concluding summary of their meta-analysis of hundreds and hundreds of academic publications on the subject, the trio stated the following. As research has shown, there are conditions under which tangible rewards do not necessarily undermine intrinsic motivation, but the evidence indicates clearly that strategies that focus primarily on the use of extrinsic rewards do, indeed, run a serious risk of diminishing rather than promoting intrinsic motivation. Bringing this together, it may be natural to ask, what does this all mean? In interactions with children and young adults, why would the use of rewards be implemented? One idea may be that rewards can be used to possibly control the current or potential future behaviors of an individual. And as we've gone over, while the sight of a carrot dangling on a stick may be enough in some situations to produce results, the results may not be those that were initially desired. In a study on the intrinsic motivation of students to read, researchers offered elementary school students various outcomes for their completion of a reading task. They would get either no reward, a book, or a small token prize. The researchers found that the students that were given a token prize for their completion of the first reading assignment were much less motivated to engage in the reading behavior again on their own when compared to the no reward or the book reward group. Similar to the findings of DC, Kostner, and Ryan, it was suggested that these non-proximal or unrelated rewards undermine the intrinsic motivation of the children in question. Now, we learned earlier that children may be innately motivated to help others. It could be natural to think that this behavior should be rewarded with a prize to increase the likelihood that it is repeated. The research in this case, however, states that the addition of an external reward may produce what is referred to as an overjustification effect. This overjustification is explained by the fact that the action of helping another person was enough reward in itself. Adding in an external incentive became too much, and in turn decreased the likelihood that the behavior would be repeated. Following this line of thinking, one would not want to shift the focus of altruistic behaviors away from the innate rewards that are inherent within the nature of the tasks. The message parents and educators are likely looking to reinforce is that helping is a good thing. Children may be able to best learn this fact by being provided with further opportunities to help and not necessarily rewards for having already done so. There is an exhaustive amount of research on the effects of rewards on task performance, especially in regards to children. The aforementioned study asking children to create the drawing showed that the children in the reward group created pictures that were judged to be of a lower quality than the control group. The researchers suggested that the rewards had lowered the desire of the children to draw. As a possible explanation to this phenomena, researchers Rees and Shusinski suggested that the expectation of rewards may be a distraction for children asked to complete a novel task. When the focus of the child is on the expected reward for completion rather than the actual task at hand, results may be more hurried and of a lower quality. In this case, giving children a reward for doing something generally considered to be inherently pleasant resulted in the opposite effect. Not only were the children apparently less motivated to continue the creative behavior, but they may have actually enjoyed the process of the activity less due to their preoccupation with the results it may produce. A final consideration in regards to the usage of rewards is the relationship between the individuals in the transaction, especially in regards to verbal praise. In another widely cited article on the topic of motivation, DC, Kostner, and Ryan stated that, depending on the context of the relationship, verbal rewards have been shown to affect intrinsic motivation. It is further noted, however, that some behaviors may be performed simply in the pursuit of receiving praise, while the repetition of the desired behavior may be valued. Knowing that the motivation behind it could be considered a form of insincerity must be considered. In addition, while in the context of a controlling relationship, some praise may be interpreted by children as being manipulative. As a consequence of this, some would recommend an evaluation of the nature of the relationship when offering praise to a child. Praise received in an unstable or rocky relationship may be taken by the child as an attempted form of control. The child's perception of the praise is noted as a major concern. Praise taken in the context of control or as a challenge to one's autonomy has shown negative effects on the individual's motivation to continue a task. The use of extrinsic rewards has been shown to negatively affect valued behaviors, task-related performance, and intrinsic motivation in children and young adults. Now, it is not argued that the use of incentives is to be completely avoided. Researchers have found, though, that unexpected, non-contingent rewards were not shown to have these same detrimental effects. So when considering the use of rewards, it may be prudent to consider the nature of the reward, the context of the relationship, and the ultimate desired result. want to thank you all for watching. Just a reminder that I am now booking for birthdays, weddings, bar mitzvahs, and holiday parties. Please leave a comment below, and my agent will contact you.